This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
A report by the World Bank says that 75.5% of Nigeria's rural population is poor. The report, titled the April 2025 Poverty and Equity Brief for Nigeria, also identifies education as a key factor determining the poverty levels in the rural areas. Joining the conversation this morning is Soji Adeniyi, a social development expert. Mr. Adeniyi, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
To start with, I want to get your reaction to this particular report, particularly as it touches on education as a way to transform the current state of our rural economy.
Well, I think the report is right to an extent in recommending clearly that education is a way out. I'd rather say education is the way out because it holds the key to the transformation that we need to see, whether it's in rural areas, near-urban or urban areas. Globally, if you look at the indicators, poverty is measured on several indices, including access to, basic amenities and facilities and social, indicators, hospitals, schools, access roads, and the rest of them. So when they say people are below poverty line, they're not actually talking about money in their pocket, but they're talking about the access that they have to those social amenities, which people take for granted in the developed world. So I've always said that children out of school in Nigeria, depending on who you ask, they will tell you 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, depending on the strata of population that they're also looking at. So basically everyone is saying that there's a problem, but who is addressing that problem? That's where the challenge is. We need to take education as an emergency, as a countrywide, not just for rural areas. Rural areas is a bit worse than urban areas, but even in the urban centers, learning is not taking place in most schools because they are either overcrowded or they don't have the right teachers or they don't have the right infrastructure. So until we take education seriously, especially basic education, the National Assembly recently was talking about new universities. We don't need new universities. We have enough universities. The problem we have is that we don't have good basic education, and therefore we're producing children that are not able to reach at stage 10, which in itself is learning poverty, and children who cannot become top leaders in the world because they have not been exposed to the right kind of inclusive education that they're supposed to have. We don't have teachers who understand how to teach children to read. Reading is not a subject in primary and basic education schools. That's what we need. We need to teach children to read. Once children are able to read before the age of 5, then you can't stop them from becoming a professor because right from that age, they crave education, they crave reading, they read every material that comes their way. I always say that they are not children out of school. They're only in the wrong schools. So if we don't provide the right schools for them, they will go into schools of banditry, schools of kidnapping. And when they graduate with AK-47, we see them as, bandits. So that's why the government must take the bull by the horn. The people must take the bull by the horn. The teachers and the parents must work to educate our children. We are not going anywhere until we fix the problem of basic education. That's my reaction.
So, Mr. Adeniyi, interestingly, I'm looking at the stats that the World Bank put out from October of 2024. And when you compare the figures with April 2025, they haven't really changed in terms of projections of how many poor people are in Nigeria at the moment. There are real questions on what these numbers will look like by the end of this year because of all the projections around inflation and worsening indices of just cost and value of living. But one of the things that's interesting is that a number of states in the country do offer free primary and secondary education. And despite this free education, we still have these high numbers of children out of school. Can you draw the connection for us why it is that this effort by the state governments does not seem to be enough to mop up these children from the streets and give them some sort of value as a foundation?
Going to school and learning in school are two different things. You can have a free education where children go to school and they learn. When they learn, they stay in school. When they are not learning, they drop out of school. What is happening now is the learning crisis. We are having children go to school in over classrooms that are not fit for learning. We're having teachers in classrooms that are not trained to teach children how to read or basic literacy. So when those things are not happening in our schools, we may have the schools, but if learning is not taking place, children are too smart to stay in an environment where they're not getting anything. So they will drop out naturally, and they would look for other things to do. And if they find space in a crime environment where it gives them pleasure and pain, they would stay there rather than stay in classrooms that are not, resource enough to be able to teach children. The problem with that, we have teachers who are locked down in their old mode of teaching. Children have moved beyond that. They now have access to electronic gadgets that are teaching them 10 times faster than their teachers can teach them. So except the teachers are taught how to adjust and accommodate the new yearnings of these children in the classroom space, except that the classrooms are conducive for children to, learn in an inclusive fashion, adaptive learning, and the rest of it. That's what learning is in the 21st century. It's no longer the learning of, ABCD in a classroom where the teacher just stands by the blackboard and believes that it's teaching the children. Those type of, learning has gone past. If you go to private schools now, you would see the inclusive learning environment where they are putting the children through. That's why 90% of Nigerians will not put their children into public schools except they are poor.
Right.
So it's the children of the poor that are putting their children in the public schools, and the public schools are not conducive for learning.
Right. Mr. Adeniyi, thank you very much for your time and expertise on this conversation. Soji Adeniyi is a social development expert who joined us this morning to speak on a report by the World Bank that identifies 75.5% of Nigeria's rural population as poor. And that report, amongst other things, also pointed to a need for improved education as a way to fix the numbers that Nigeria has recorded.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.